The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
And welcome back to Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata. Sterling Fox along with Tony Giventu, Executive Director of the BC Condominium Homeowners Association in studio. And boy, we're just motoring through a stack of summer emails. And this one is from Michael over on Vancouver Island, Tony. Michael says, I've heard through conversations that with the Strata Act and a certain court case here in BC, that with taking in square footage, the strata fees should have been adjusted accordingly since day one. And if so, can an owner recover the overpaid strata fees with interest? How can I get a copy of that court decision? I would be very grateful for your assistance on this matter, says Michael. So are we talking urban myths? Does Michael have a leg to stand on? What's the story here, Tony?
Well, if such a court decision existed, I would like a copy of it also.
Oh.
So it could be getting confused with an allocation of use of space where the strata was not complying with their unit entitlement. Unit entitlement is the basic formula that's filed in land titles. So go back to the developer days.
Okay.
When the strata plan is created and filed in land titles, there is a formula that's published that tells you basically what percentage each owner pays of common expenses.
Okay.
Right? So
and that would be each unit. So if you wanted to buy 1609, you could look it up and go, well, that would be my strata fees based on all of these criteria.
Get a copy of the registered strata plan. Sometimes the schedule of unit entitlement is filed separately because under the Strata Property Act, they were no longer filed as part of the strata plan. So,
okay.
but older strata corporations, it's all in the strata plan. But just look at what your unit entitlement is for your unit, divide it by the total unit entitlement of all of the units, and that tells you what your percentage of all common expenses is going
Michael's
to be.
assumption here, and he's referring to this mythical court case, is that it's always based on square footage. So the guy with the little bachelor pad on the first floor is going to pay a heck of a lot less than the person in the 2,000 square foot penthouse.
Except for bare land stratas, because almost all bare land stratas pay the same strata fees, because the bare land strata is the piece of property, the
Yes.
lot, right?
Right.
Everybody pays exactly the same strata fee, so that you'll see everybody's unit entitlement is, if there's 20 units, everybody pays 1/20th.
Right.
So 1, right?
Okay.
So in bare lands, that's generally the formula that's almost always used.
Nice and simple.
Nice and simple. Even in townhouses, you will find that sometimes, because the square footage was so close. Some were 1,800 square feet, some were 1,805.
Right.
Square footages were so close, it was just an easy, simple formula to just simply make them all
Split it
the
up
same,
even.
right?
Right.
Under the Strata Property Act, the obligation for new strata corporations is that they're based on habitable living area, habitable space. So it doesn't include garages, doesn't include balconies or decks or patios.
So Michael's
It's
onto
habitable
something
living
with the
space.
square footage then, right?
Well, he is, but it doesn't change what already exists for all the existing strata corporations, right?
Okay.
So every old strata corporation, we have strata corporations dating back to, into the 60s and 70s,
Sure.
where the one-bedroom units are paying 10% of the cost. The two-bedroom units are paying 15% of the cost.
And that was the formula in those days.
And that might have been the formula that was used.
Sure.
So you might see that there are 30 units, and some pay 1/30th, some pay 3/30th. So you have a variety of models that are created. So you have to look at the schedule of unit entitlement always to see what your percentage of the liability is. This used to be on the property purchase disclosure statement when you bought a place.
Yeah.
Your realtor used to actually put down what the unit entitlement of the unit was and the total unit entitlement of the strata, so you could calculate out what your portion of common expenses
Which
were.
is reasonable.
Well, it's a good thing to do, but it's more complicated than that, because what if you're in a strata corporation that's mixed-use residential commercial, that not all expenses are common to both sections?
Yep.
What if you're in a phased development that had different formulas or different models? And so that's where it starts to become a problem.
Michael was asking also about the overpayment. If someone has been discovered to have been overpaying their strata fees, Is there a remedy where that person can collect the overpaid fees? And of course, Michael's interested in a little interest on top of that as well.
Well, and if he's in a strata corporation where the strata corporation has not been using the unit and title formula, he definitely has an argument.
Oh, okay.
And he definitely could get a judgment ordering the strata corporation to restitute and adjust the back fees. It'll go back 6 years, maybe max.
So this sounds again though like perhaps a case to be reviewed by a lawyer.
It does. What I would do, though, if in any strata corporation, absolutely make sure that your strata corporation is using only the registered schedule of unit entitlement. There's a little bit of an error that's made on new developments. When the developer creates the strata plan and the disclosure statement, they file a draft schedule of unit entitlement. This is what they intend to build. That draft unit entitlement, for some reason, always seems to make its way into strata fees and budgeting.
Right.
It's not what the surveyor does before the strata plan is filed. Nobody has any idea what the actual square footage of the units are until they're built.
Right.
Once they're built, the surveyor goes in, the schedule of unit entitlement is created. It's always different than what the developer filed as what was intended, because the developer has no way of knowing what it's actually going to be.
Developers working from blueprints, the surveyors in the real deal.
And so what happens is people somehow get these conceptual unit entitlements, and they start using them, and they use them for a number of years until somebody comes along who's on the ball, and they say, hey, wait a minute, this is not what's filed in land titles. I'm not paying these strata fees.
Right.
And the strata figures out. The strata needs to correct this immediately if they've realized they're not using the schedule of unit entitlement. And I don't care who you are in the strata corporation, the manager, the treasurer, who you are, just because there's a difference of 1 or 2 square feet, or 1 or 2 10 or 20 cents between units, you don't round up.
Right.
Because 10 or 20 cents on monthly strata fees is substantially different when you're looking at a $30,000 levy.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move along because we've got another one here from Surrey, and a couple of questions in this one. I have 2 clarifications. Maybe either you reply through the paper or direct to me. Well, lucky emailer, you're getting a direct deal here. The first question is, as an owner, can I attend strata meetings? My understanding is any owner can, but he or she cannot take part in any discussions. Do clarify, please. Second, if fines are imposed and the owner will not agree with the fine, what course of action can the owner take in regard to that strata council action, which he or she feels is unfair and possibly even incorrect? So a couple of hot questions there for you, Tony.
First question's easy. It depends on
going to meetings.
Yeah,
right?
Going to meetings depends on the bylaws of the strata corporation. The standard bylaws permit owners to attend as observers,
Sure.
except for those portions that deal with matters that relate to bylaw enforcement, hardship applications, or those matters that would be dealing with private or personal information.
Okay.
Right. So strata council posts that they meet every Tuesday in the clubhouse at 7:00.
Right.
Observers can attend, and they attend silently. If they're not quiet, and if they intervene and disrupt the meetings, eject them from the meetings. Council needs to advise them, you're in violation of the bylaws, you could be fined, and you need to leave the meeting.
So our emailer has it right. Then
Yeah.
he says, my understanding is that any owner can attend the meeting, but cannot take part in any discussion.
Unless invited by the strata council.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
If you have a specific issue, though, just bridge that over to his next issue. I disagree with a fine that
Yeah.
the council has imposed.
Right.
If you have a specific issue, demand a hearing. Under Section 34 of the Act, an owner is entitled to demand a hearing of council. Council have to grant a hearing, and based on the purpose of the hearing, have to provide a written response to the owner within 7 days after the hearing about what issue they've raised.
So there's the second half of the inquiry. If I've been fined and I really disagree with the nature of the fine, perhaps even the amount, I think the whole deal is a sham, I can demand a hearing and present my case.
Present your case. The council may say, well, look, you know what, we disagree. The fine still stands. And I'll say, hopefully someday we see the tribunal up and running. That's great. Let's take it to the tribunal and see what they say about it. Let's get it resolved. The other side of this with respects to owners attending council meetings is that at council meetings, strata council members often deal with things like correspondence from owners. They deal with a monthly arrears list, people who owe money to the strata corporation,
for sure,
right?
yeah.
They're going to deal with some bylaw issues that come up. They're going to deal with personal information. Strata council needs to take a little bit of time to make sure those type of things are either parked at the end of the meeting or at the very beginning of the meeting so that there are no observers in the room.
Right, of
right?
course. Of
You
course.
need to protect privacy and confidentiality.
Absolutely. And we've had a good discussion about privacy issues already.
Well,
on
and
this show.
some strata corporations are like Peyton Place, honestly. There isn't a thing that happens at strata council meetings where the strata council members go home and they tell their spouses, and within 30 seconds, everybody in the strata corporation knows about the dirty laundry that went on at the meetings.
Not a lot of time for Barry's, but it's an important one to include in our summer email review here. Our complex is comprised of 88 2- and 3-bedroom, 3-story townhouses. The complex is about 7 years old and issued the discovery of some mold in the attic of a few of those units. The suspected cause, believed to be faulty vapor barriers, bathroom fan exhausts in conjunction with insufficient ventilation. Barry wants to know who's responsible to repair the damage in those attics and remove that mold.
Well, it could be a variety of things. If it's a new development, there could be warranty issues. So certainly the Strata Corporation wants to
says
contact.
It's 7 years old.
So it may be beyond the warranty provision unless this was an issue that arose prior to. This could be a problem with a defect in the roofing system, which would be a building envelope system that could have been identified earlier as a warranty claim. But always check your warranty on your building to see first if these items are warranty issues. Strata corporations, especially townhouse complexes where you have attics and crawl spaces, are remiss about inspecting those in the first couple of years in new developments. You need to inspect them to make sure that the venting is actually connected to exterior vents. And this is a problem in a number of strata corporations where the exhaust from the kitchen and the bathroom and sometimes even the dryer vents just exhaust straight into the attic spaces.
It's the old, if you're going to spend, and in Vancouver, anywhere in British Columbia, it's a hideous amount of money to buy a condo or any kind of accommodation. For goodness sake, spend a couple of $100 and send a pro in there and get a proper house inspection done.
Get somebody in to look at your attics and crawl spaces for air quality, for mold, for those types, especially in a new development. You have a warranty. The warranty covers these types of things, and make sure that you get warranty claims filed. The other thing is most attics and crawl spaces are frequently common property, so they can often be the responsibility of the Strata Corporation if it turns out there's a defect. So you have to check Strata Plan. Who's responsible?
All right, Barry, thanks for your email. Thanks to all of the emailers that we received information from. That's it for our show and the summer email bag. The address is radio@keypacific.com for our next show. We'd be happy to take a look at some of your issues here on Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. For Tony Juventu, I'm Sterling Fox. See you next time.